wearing camo because we have the Navy SEAL coming on. So why not? Why not? Joel Lambert, who grew up performing on stage and in commercials before selling everything he had and running off to join the armed forces, where he served as a Navy SEAL for 10 years, earning distinction and experiencing combat in places like Kosovo and Afghanistan. He returned home shortly after, and he aspired to join the elite Navy SEALs, where he was drawn back into the world of film and television. He has had roles in such movies as American Sniper, Patriots Day, and Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, as well as TV shows like Mad Men, Hot in Cleveland, The Closer, and Days of Our Lives. Most recently, he's had his own international escape and evasion show on the Discovery Channel called Manhunt, titled Lone Target in the US, as well as a wildlife series entitled Predators Up Close, airing on Animal Planet. This man has done it all. So I'm going to ask the question why he became a Navy SEAL, and I'll let him answer that. It's a very interesting answer. So let's welcome Joel Lambert to Krystal Tini TV. I am so honored to have him with us.
Hey,
Joel,
Krystal.
how are you doing?
I am awesome. It's great to connect with you.
Same here. I did an intro previous to this, but I just want to let you know that you probably are the most interesting man in the world that I've come across so far.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
To top that.
I've got a few interesting things notched under my belt, but I've been following you for quite a while since all this stuff started happening and everything. So I've been a fan. So this is great to to connect.
I'm a huge fan of yours, so it's mutual. Holy hell! I was just like going over and kind of trying to summarize like all the things that you've been into and all that stuff, and I'm just happy to have your take on it as a former Navy SEAL because of all the craziness that's going on in the world. It's like I can't imagine how many people there are in your shoes or that have been a Navy SEAL or in military or anything like that that feel the same way and aren't outspoken about it or are, and you know, I don't know, it's just pure chaos. Like just that's the first question for me for you is like, from your perspective, like what are you thinking? Like
what am I thinking just of the state of the world today?
Yes, with everything that's going down. Like I've been following Canada, obviously. I post about it nonstop. People are like, you're a Canadian. I'm like, I'm an American, but like I'm just, so proud that somebody has done something.
Who would have thought that the equivalent of the US storming the beach in Normandy would be Canadian truckers?
Seriously. I mean,
Canadians,
it's so cool.
just Canadians.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, so this is a very fascinating time and so many things going on, and we can talk about it from so many different perspectives, from the military, spiritual, political, all that. But really, I think it all comes down to, and so many different sects and factions are using this statement, and I think that's just indicative of how powerful and universal it is. But this is the Great Awakening, and this is humanity. Sorry, I get emotional on this kind of stuff, but this is the greatest moment in humanity's history, and we chose to be here, and more than that, we were allowed to come here and be here for this and that.
I agree with you so much on that. Don't make me get emotional. I'm PMSing, Joel.
What's that?
I said, don't make me get emotional. I'm PMSing. TMI. Yeah. But you summarized, what I've been talking about. And I did a podcast a couple of months ago in Florida, and I'm like talking about the Great Awakening. And the other host was like, well, what do you mean by this Great Awakening? Like, what is this Great Awakening? And I'm like, I don't know if you're alive or you're not, but how could you not see what's happening?
Well, it's
not feel that. Go ahead.
Oh, it's happening on two different fronts, and some people are getting it on, on one hand, it's the spiritual aspect of us waking up to what we really are and who we really are, and all of what humanity really is in relation to all of existence. And then the other side of it is the more social political side of it, where we're waking up to the truth that this is a matrix that we're living in, and it's been controlled, and we can go as far down that rabbit hole as you want to go, because I've gone all the way to the bottom, so we can get into reptilians. I mean, it's
Joel, this might have to be like a 3-part, 4-hour. Like, I mean, there's so much that we could talk about, and it's like, for me to talk to someone that has the background that you do and be able to go down the rabbit hole without you thinking I'm completely out of my mind and insane, because when you mention words like reptilian, people are just like, okay, we're just going to end the conversation now.
Oh, totally. One of my
People
closest
just don't
friends.
get it.
No, they don't. One of my closest friends, who's actually he's the guy who did the documentary Out of Shadows,
Yeah.
which yeah. So he's definitely on our side of things. And whenever I bring that up, he's like, "Dude, hold up on that. You know, you're just gonna it's too far."
Is it too far for him or too far for the audience?
Too far for him, and
Ah,
because it's too far for him, he assumes, rightly so, that it's too far for 99.9% of the people out there. And I mean, as things are exposed, I firmly believe, as things are coming out, as Durham is doing his stuff, as people are going to realize the stuff that's just political here, you know, the election fraud, the pandemic,
yeah.
all the things that are going on right now, the desperate control to move us into this reset.
Mhm.
More and more is going to come out, and I hope and I pray that all of it comes out, because there's some very dark things. But
Oh,
as you go down this stuff, and as you get down to some of the human trafficking and things like that, and you go beyond that, and you go back in history as well, and you go back to the
mhm.
black nobility, and you go back to the 13 bloodlines, and you go to the stuff that really is at the root of all of this, that gave rise to, Bernays and Bilderberg and
Mhm.
Davos and the World Economic Forum and the Illuminati. And if you go past that, it gets really dark and really interesting, and it's going to lose a lot of people. But once you start down and once you start connecting the dots, you end up there if you keep going.
No, and that's the truth. And I think that's the truth that people are afraid to see. You
Oh
can
yeah.
give them every single piece of the puzzle. They're not going to look past the most obvious, which is maybe mainstream news. Be like, oh, I'm comfortable here. This is where I'm good,
Yes.
to stay. And there's just, like you said, the rabbit hole goes so far, like people couldn't even comprehend to the level and the depths that this actually goes. And whenever I come across a person like yourself that knows so much of this information, it's like, oh my God, I just want to talk to you forever, because it's difficult. These are difficult conversations to have, because these are inconceivable ideas to people that are actually
Exactly.
real
And
things.
that's what the awakening is. I mean, and it's got to be slow and gentle, because this kind of information that you're talking about, Crystal, this is the way we have seen the world, or assumed the world is, or what we predicate our entire existence upon. That's all getting knocked out from underneath, and that's a very difficult thing
Yeah.
to have happen to somebody, or to. So I'm very um, I'm just very grateful for people like you and people who understand these things, because they have courage to be able to challenge assumptions and beliefs, and step off of this seemingly rock solid pedestal of that our entire perception of reality is built on. That's a difficult thing. And my
Yeah.
personal belief on some of this stuff is, like, I think Obama summed it up perfectly, seeing him the way he spoke so well, and the way he was so gently condescending to everyone who didn't believe
Yes.
him, and everyone who was on his side. You are the good people. You are the smart ones. You are the
Mhm.
compassionate ones. And it's up to us to bring along these foolish, deplorable idiots who
Right.
are racist and misogynist and all these other things. But it's up to us. And it strokes the ego, and it feeds the ego. And so there's this ego attachment to, hey, if I follow the narrative, I'm a good person. And that
Right.
a difficult thing to let go of.
It really is. And I'm having trouble even myself with understanding like what's real and what isn't, because I'm really big into manifesting right now. And
Mm.
that, I'm not sure if you've heard of this concept that whatever is in your present reality right now is already the past. So I'm just like, all these things are just like running through my head. I'm like, well, I don't understand what's real and what really isn't real. So there's like, when you're really breaking away from the system that you've grown up with, like you said, it's this whole matrix that you're in.
Yes.
You're just like, okay, so then what is real, what's not? It's very confusing. So for people like myself or yourself that really know all this information, how could the other people that know none of what is going on ever understand this? It's
And to get into concepts like what you're talking about, and I'm going to expand a little bit on that, that,
yeah,
creating our own reality, with our thoughts and with our existence, and the fact that there are people and bloodlines and entities that have been controlling the masses in order to get us to think a certain way, because that creates the reality that they want. We are creating
Right.
we are creating the matrix by the programming they put into us, and then the thinking that they elicit from us. I mean, these kind of metaphysical concepts, you're getting, I mean, just the concept itself is difficult, but then
Yeah.
getting into the implications of really the Matrix is a documentary. There are,
Yeah.
you know, we are harvested, grown, and contributing our energies. We are batteries, and we are creating this reality that we are existing in that is for the benefit of a very select few. It's, we're just getting into.
Let me just ask you this.
Hmm?
If there is Christ consciousness or a greater being and there is love and highest frequency and stuff, how could, and I ask a couple other people that are really down this rabbit hole and are into consciousness and stuff, like how could we have allowed, maybe not even allowed this to happen for so many years that it's just like we come here and we're enslaved? Like if there is a greater good and there is a higher power and all this stuff, like how could this be what our existence is made of? I just can't get past that.
Yeah, I haven't thought that through, but
You know what I mean? It's just like,
my initial thought on that, I mean, Earth is this is a free will planet, and this is a free will region, and this for our ascension and for our transformation. I mean, it is all entirely really up to us to polarize the way we're going to polarize
yeah,
and raise our frequency and learn these things and move on. I mean, we've all come here for a reason that we may
yes,
not understand or remember, but um, I don't know if that gets into the, how could God allow this kind of thing to exist if he is love and light and purity and all these things? And I don't know. I mean, I think that at the core of it, there's a mystery that we'll never understand until we work
yeah.
through all the different octaves.
But we can say this about the Great Awakening, since we're both, talking about that, that this is just the most crazy and historic time in history that you
Yes.
have all these people around the globe. It's not just one country, one city, one state. This is a global thing. And I said yesterday, like these MFers woke up the sleeping giant, and the people aren't going back to sleep. So people are aware, maybe not as far down the rabbit hole as us, but at least they're willing to look at the fact that something ain't right here.
Yeah, even the people that they're complete still or have been really asleep this whole time. I mean, to stay
Yeah.
asleep right now, completely asleep, is a willful choice. It's a
Yes.
choice to stay comfortable. It's a choice to stay, not to challenge my goodness as a human, because these
Yeah.
people are telling me I'm good for, you know, following this narrative in so many different the threads of the narrative. Following this narrative, I'm a good person, and that's
Yeah.
what becomes very challenging because then you have people that are challenged with these things that are so obvious you can't ignore them at this point. But then
Yes.
they're faced with the choice of allowing their world paradigm of everything to crumble.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Does that mean I'm not a good person? Does that mean I was a stupid
Exactly.
person
Right.
and maybe was a bad person? That
Mhm.
all this was a lie? So then there there's several different choices that a person must make that are very difficult. And so I have a lot of compassion. Actually, most of the time I don't. I'm having arguments with people in my head. But then when I recenter and after I meditate and I take my ormus and everything, then I'm
Yeah.
able to focus back in and realize and let go of those things and just settle into it's not my job. It's not my onus. It's everyone is working their own thing right here, and everyone's working their own. I mean, this is an amazing time, and even the people that are on. I'm sorry, a dog moving over
Hi,
there.
Rosie.
Yeah, this Rosie girl. Hi there. Tucked in your blanket. Are
She's a
you?
beauty.
I know. Hello.
Oh,
No, you sit with Dad in your blanket. She's got to be tucked in her blanket.
so cute.
She. I created a monster.
I can relate. My little puppy, I'm going to go get him in a little bit. He's at my sister's and he is so spoiled, but I'm like, I'm going to pick him up later because he'll be barking and doing this and torturing me to go outside. So I was just like, let me just.
All right, now she joins me on all of them. She just kind of
Good.
settles in and groans. Are you just groaning right there? Dad's knocking things around. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. Um,
Yeah, like what we or you were saying, that could segue into, you said you take your Ormus, is that what you said?
Yes, yeah, I just started taking that.
Okay. I take so many different herbal supplements and things like that, but I know that you were into psychedelics.
Yes,
So do you
yes.
want to talk about that a little bit? Because I've never done psychedelics. I have not done mushroom trips or anything like that, or any plant ceremonies. And that's like my next step into like really moving a lot of the stuck energy and stuff. I do a lot of energy healing work, but I really want to step it up a few notches and do
Oh,
some of that.
let's go down that because that was I grew up and I dropped acid in high school and ate mushrooms growing up in the Pacific Northwest. All these cow fields of mushrooms growing all the
Yeah.
place. But there is a world of difference. In fact, almost polar opposites between a conscious, intentional ceremony, whether by yourself or even better with the presence of a shaman or a group or
Yes.
a facilitator, and just taking these recreationally. And I got out of the SEAL teams and um, spending the amount of time that I spend, or I think any amount of time in a special operations unit, especially during the time that I was in, um,
Yeah.
there's a lot of cost to that, to you as a human. And I was aware of that going in, and I was very willing to pay that. And I didn't expect to come out the other side the same or even put back together or that I could be
Mhm.
put back together. And that is very evident physically. I mean, my body's been destroyed and that's okay. And I'm okay with that. I was willing to. That's just part of what it was. But then a lot of things just get disconnected for me anyway. They're
Yeah.
like wiring harnesses. I always talk about how those, like in a vehicle, they have those big wiring harnesses that clip together. They have big plastic clips. And there's like 10 or 20 wires in each one. It feels like those
Yeah.
are just pulled apart from me. And so I went through when I got out, I went through a lot of different things, or when I got back from Afghanistan, really, before I got out,
Yeah.
I started going through some things to just consciously kind of reintegrate back into connectivity with myself. My meditation practice was a huge part of that
Yeah.
and probably did the most for me to bring me back to real sleep and to eliminate the monkey mind and just
Yeah.
focus and center. But I had heard about kind of through the grapevine, the team guy grapevine, that there was some sort of psychedelic retreat or something along these lines that they were doing with guys. And I was super interested in that, but I didn't know how, where it was. And I knew it was everyone who kind of mentioned it go, I signed a bunch of NDAs. I can't talk about it. It's not particularly legal. It's kind of, in the gray area.
Yeah.
But I thought I clocked it and I thought, someday soon I am going to, look into that and figure out what that is and see
So
if
if
I
you
can
could
get
hold
involved in it.
that last thought, and we will be back in just a minute. Dermatologists recommend serums for nearly any aging, starting from the age of 20 all the way up to 70s and above for both its preventative and repairing benefits. Serums can work for any skin type from oily to dry, and thousands of consumers, they show that they're effective, but choosing the right serum among all the options found in the stores can be difficult. This is why I highly recommend Glow with Krystal. This ultra-rich serum helps reduce the most visible signs of aging, like wrinkles, age spots, photoaging. This amazing product uses powerhouse ingredients to promote the appearance of a firmer, tighter, brighter, smoother, and more youthful-looking skin. I personally use it daily and it's become my favorite anti-aging serum. I couldn't be more thrilled with the results that I received, honestly. I partnered with the creators of this amazing product to give my audience up to 38% off their own supply to celebrate the new year. Just go to Glow with Krystal or click the link below to get yours today.
And then I was speaking to a friend of mine in LA, and I mentioned this to her, and she said, "Oh, that's probably the ibogaine program that my friend is running." I'm like, "Yes, that's exactly it. What? Tell me more." And she's
Yeah.
like, "One of my friends is involved in this. Let me connect you." So she connected me with her friend, and I reached out, and her friend connected me with a doctor who's running it. And there's a doctor, Dr. Martin Polanco, and he had
Mhm.
run I think it's called Crossroads in Mexico. It's an ibogaine center for like the last 25 or 30 years, and they treat because ibogaine it's a West African root shrub, and it's they refer to it as like the great granddaddy of psychedelics. This is the
Wow.
powerful this is the psychedelic,
Right.
and it's not for the faint of heart. But what it is an addiction interrupter, And so people with addictions like opioids, heroin addictions,
Mhm.
like these hardcore addictions, if they find out about it and they could get access to it, they go down to Mexico, and within the first 5 minutes of the ibogaine experience, both the physical and the mental addictions are cleaned. They're like
What?
completely gone. Yes, within the first 5 minutes of dropping into it.
Wow.
So the thing is with
Okay.
that is that, you know, there's so much more to addiction than just the actual addiction. There's the circumstances and the people you're with and all that sort of stuff. They
Mhm.
were seeing something like a 40 to 80% cure rate from these addicts. And the only reason it wasn't 100% is people, you know, go back to the same town, they go back to the
Yeah,
same
exactly.
relationship, they go back to the same, you know, situation. But what ibogaine would do is it's like a fresh snowfall over a sledding hill. And all these ruts that you get stuck in, ways of thinking and stuff, are just covered with this fresh layer of snow, and now you get to choose what paths you're going to take. And it was amazing. So I reached out to this doctor, and we had a phone consultation. He was basically feeling me out, asking me why I wanted to go do these psychedelics, and I said apparently all the right things, because he's like, yeah, you're a perfect candidate for it. And so there was some medical work I had to do, because ibogaine is also one of the only psychedelics that can actually be physically dangerous. It can cause heart issues. So
Oh my God.
yeah, so you have to be
Okay.
screened for it. And then while you're in the experience for the first 3 or 4 hours, they have medical personnel and they have heart rate monitors and stuff on
What?
you. Yeah, so but the doctor said if it does nothing happens in the first couple hours, you're fine, and it's very
Okay.
rare.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
most psychedelics, almost all psychedelics, don't have a physically dangerous component to them. Like Terence McKenna says, they are dangerous because they will completely destroy your sense of reality.
Yeah, that's for sure. But
But
what makes that one like a physical danger? What is in it? Is it some kind of poison? Like what?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
But it's a very, very powerful one that can possibly have heart um, issues. So um,
Okay.
that's all I know. So I sign up and I get approved to do this program, and they send me a bunch of work to do beforehand, like a little workbook. And so about 2 weeks before the experience down in Mexico, I started doing the workbook, and it was mostly all intention based kind of stuff, and
Mhm.
asking you to open up yourself to previous trauma, whatever kind of stuff it was. And they also said, and I had a couple phone meetings with the counselor, and they said, the medicine will start working before you take it. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not
Okay.
really how it works, but cool. Got you, hippie. And
Yeah.
but then as I'm starting to do this work, all these things started coming up from my past, things that I had shoved down and buried and never
Mhm.
wanted to come back up and never was going to deal with again, started coming up, and it was okay. And I thought, okay, this is actually the medicine working before it starts. And at that point, I thought,
Right.
okay, this is something's legit here. Something's really legit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so my weekend came, and I go down to San Diego from LA. I was living in LA at the time,
Mhm.
and I meet the 4 or 5 guys I'm going to be going with through this experience with at a lunch place. We eat lunch. It's the last meal we're going to eat because we're going to have that ibogaine that night. We're going to be fasted.
Yeah.
So we drive down to this house in Mexico. We get there, get situated. There's several facilitators there, a couple former SEALs and a couple just energy workers there.
Mhm.
And we settle in, and we do urinalysis, and they do all these physical screenings again. They're very thorough as far as the
Mhm.
medical screening goes. And then we have a fire ceremony that evening, and we write down what it is we want to leave behind and everything. We burn it. We take turns, going around the room and saying our intentions and things and our mantras. And
Mhm.
then the doctor passes out our ibogaine doses, which he's got them. So iboga is the actual plant, and ibogaine is the extract. And so we're not chewing
Okay.
the bark. We're having little capsules of the actual ibogaine extract, according to our body weight. We each give it, and they give it to us in little wooden bowls. It's like a sacrament. We take it solemnly, and we go upstairs. And as we're going upstairs, they're saging and smudging and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, Soul Cycle. But at the same
Yeah.
time, it didn't feel like that. There's something very real and very powerful in the ceremony that these people were doing. And so I wasn't mocking or anything.
Yeah.
We go lay down, all these medical personnel, and they attach, heart rate monitors and O2 and all this stuff. And I lay down and I have my little eye shade, and I pull it down over my eyes, and I'm just waiting for something to come. And
Yeah.
the only thing I know about this ibogaine is I read an account one of my other SEAL brothers had, and a green dragon came and took him through the universe, and it was beautiful. I'm like, that sounds pretty good. I'm down for that.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's
Let's
go.
go. Let's go, green dragon. And so
Yeah.
I lay down and I'm waiting, and I'm like, is that it? No, that's not it. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. Is that it? No, it's not happening. And then all of a sudden, boom, it hits me. And this infernal buzzing, this sound starts happening. And the sound has
Hmm.
a shape. And one of the things that happens in psychedelics is that shapes and sounds and colors and things like that will get conflated. So
Hmm.
colors will have numbers and numbers will have sounds and things like that. So this buzzing had a distinct shape, and I was just transported into this nightmare hell in 4K. I'm seeing all this stuff happen,
Yeah.
but it's more clear and crisp than I'm seeing you right now. It's
What?
like in 8K. I'm seeing all this stuff,
Yeah.
and it's an
Wow.
alien fractal hell. It's just fractals, dark, dark fractals, like machine fractals, like Transformers, like the movie Transformers, where they all
Right.
fold out just like that. And these faces that weren't faces, but I knew that they were faces, just in knowing, would fold out and come back. And it was, it was misery. It was just the darkest, most miserable, scary. It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare in 4K that I was fully invested in. And the thing with ibogaine is that the way it feels is it feels like you are completely in a dream, but you're 100% awake and in control.
Yep.
And the strange thing is we don't remember what a dream feels like unless you're in a dream. And you're like, oh, that's what it's like. And it was the same thing here. I was like, oh, I'm in a dream. This is a dream because I recognize it from other dreams, but it's not something
Right.
I would never recognize when I was awake. But I can still move my arms and I can still, take the eye shade off and relate. But I am
Yep.
100% in this dream. And it was dark, Krystal. It was so dark, and it was ugly and brutal. And then about halfway, about an hour in, I started vomiting, and
Hmm.
but dry heaving. But these dry heaves were just like, "Hurrah!" Just the
Oh
most
my.
powerful, crazy, yeah. And people are lifting me up, and they've got a bowl in front of me, and I'm just screaming these dry heaves.
Yeah.
I dry heave until I'm exhausted, and I lay back down. And it's an energy purge. I didn't know it at the time, but this is
Right. Okay.
didn't know. Um,
Yep.
and I'm laying there, and then about halfway, I'm trying to figure out these visions the whole time, trying to figure them out, figure them out, figure 'em out. Nothing makes sense. And there's voices, and there's these fractal aliens, and then people showed up. But these people were
Hmm.
like empty husks. There was no soul in them. I recognized them as like alien pretenders all around me, um, shapeless alien pretenders.
Hmm.
and uh, and it was just dark. And at one point, I just let go. I was like, stop trying to figure it out, and I'm
Right.
in
Just
this for
surrender.
everything. Yeah, just I want whatever the medicine has. If it has nothing, that's so be it. If it has everything, so be it. I'm here, and I just let go, and nothing changed. It was just still the experience. I went through it, and
Hmm.
so this happened. Started about 8 p.m. that night. Went all night long. The next morning, the sun started coming up, and I took off my eye shade. I'm still fully in this experience, and I look around to the
Yeah.
other mattresses where the other guys are, and every dude is like in these weird rictuses, curled up in these on
Oh
their
my
mattress,
God.
locked up. And I went back to trance, and I really had to pee, but I couldn't control my body to get up and
Mhm.
walk.
Right.
And so probably about 1 p.m., the powerful experience broke, and I went into the second stage. And I began, there's two stages. There's the visionary stage, which is what I
Yeah.
was in, and then the second are green dragons, maybe if you're lucky. And then go into, they call it the contemplative or the integrative or something else phase, where you're able to kind of start integrating and thinking about what it was you experienced. I found it still, I was like completely in a trance still. But at least I was kind of out of that crazy vision. I was in this
Right.
weird trance. So I got up to go to the bathroom. I managed to make it to the bathroom and then stumbled downstairs because I'm starving. This is like two
Hmm.
in the afternoon now. I haven't eaten since for 24 hours, and I've been going through this experience from 8 p.m. the night before. I go downstairs and manage to eat a banana and fall on the ground. And then one of the facilitators comes to me and brings me to the couch and lays me down and goes and gets her tuning forks and does some energy work on me. I'm like, okay, hippie. But it worked. It was like I was feeling all the stuff moving out of me. It was fascinating.
What?
Yeah. And
This is
uh,
the craziest thing. Go ahead.
what's that?
No, I said this is just the craziest thing to just because I'm visualizing all this stuff and to just have that happen to your body and like how many people go through their life with this stuck energy forever. and they're miserable and they don't know what's wrong with them. Then they get physically sick, literally diseases and everything else. And you have these crazy experiences. So like, that's one of the reasons why I feel it's so important to talk about this stuff, because we're two seemingly normal people.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that people are like, oh, wow, okay, let me look into this a little bit more, because there are a lot of very strange people that talk about this stuff. And you're like, yeah, I probably never going to do that. When you have people, you know, that are, I mean, you were a friggin' Navy SEAL and you're like, yes, I'm doing energy work. I'm getting my shit right.
Oh yeah.
People are going to listen more.
Oh yeah. So
Go ahead.
it was incredible. So she's doing the energy work, and I remember one thing is fascinating. The one of the things I realized, one of the only kind of parts of the vision that made sense to me when I was in it, was I remember seeing my phone, and it was like right in front of my face, like this, while I was in the
Mhm.
vision, and I was just disgusted with it, and I just wanted to get it away from my face. And then as I'm laying there waiting for my facilitator to go get her tuning forks to do the work, as I was laying there, as we do, you know, I grabbed my phone and I was just kind of like, you know, scrolling, waiting, you know, killing time, waiting, and I
Yeah.
felt the phone in my hand, and I remember seeing some messages from some friends and stuff, and then all of a sudden I realized, wait, I don't have my phone. We locked up our
Oh,
phones for the entire weekend. And I felt it in my hand, Crystal. I felt my phone
wow.
when I was looking at it laying there, felt it in my hand, and then realized that, wait, I did not have it. And that was one of the takeaways I had from it, was just that connection. And I just cut that. And
Yeah.
that was the beginning of a lot of cutting. But then she came back to the energy work, and then I went back upstairs and kind of laid there for another several hours. We had dinner. Nobody ate. Everyone came down for dinner, but nobody ate anything. I remember one guy, a SEAL friend of mine from six, all tatted up, yoked up dude, holding his head like this and screaming like "ah!"
Oh,
at the dinner table, and all of us, you know, trying to eat, just because it was so powerful, you know. And these
oh,
bad war fighting men just confronting this deepest level of whatever it was for them. It was crazy. So then we went back to bed, and at some point in that night, so this is 2 nights. The night after the night I took the medicine, at some point during that night, it broke, and I fell asleep, and the trance was
mhm.
over, and it was like a fever broke, and
Oh,
I woke up the next day, and well, I was really hungry, but felt just completely cleansed out. And I went downstairs to get some food, and the facilitator said, "We're going to do the 5-MeO DMT in a couple hours. You still have to stay fasted. You can't have anything to eat," which is
oh my God.
so. Then the next thing we're going to do is 5-MeO DMT, which is a toad venom. You may have heard of
Yes.
that.
Yep.
DMT is the substance. They call DMT the spirit molecule.
So after you did all of that, you still had another whole thing to do?
At another whole ceremony, yes. So then all
Oh
of us
my,
come downstairs on Sunday morning.
yeah.
So we had the ibogaine on Friday night. On Sunday morning, we come downstairs in front of the fire again, and a couple of guys are like, you know, I think I'm good. I don't think I need
Right.
psychedelics. And
We're good.
then the facilitator said, well, this is not at all like the ibogaine. It's a very different experience. It's a very short experience, and it's a perfect bookend for what you experience. And I'm like, okay, well, you know,
Oh,
I'm in this for the whole enchilada. I'm going to do
right.
whatever it takes, but I really feel like I'm good. You know, I,
Right.
feel like I don't get this experience. None of it made sense to me, but it was powerful. And I feel like a bunch of dwarves beat me with baseball bats for about 18 hours straight. So, but we're going to go on with this. So the 5-MeO DMT is so there's a lot of different versions of DMT, which they refer to as the spirit molecule. But
Mhm.
5-MeO DMT, the frog venom, they call the God molecule. And I'm going to tell you why.
Right. Okay.
So it's a short experience. The experience lasts, you know, from between 12 minutes and an hour, depending on the person. And so
Okay.
we're going to do it individually. And so I'm the third one to go out of five guys. And so they
Ah,
go out to we do the same thing, fire ceremony, and then I go out by the pool with my journal. They said just journal a little bit and wait. We'll call you when it's your turn. And so I go out, and I'm still all kinds of messed up. And I'm sitting by the pool, and I pull my journal out, and I'm going to write something. And I write I don't I, and then I put the pen down because I'm like my brain and my
oh,
hand and my intentions, none of them are lining up. Everything is
yeah.
all disconnected,
Oh,
discombobulated. And then I collected myself and I wrote, um, Ibogaine was a nightmare in 4K. It meant nothing to me. I don't understand any of it. Um, maybe I had expectations. I tried not to,
Yeah.
but the 5-MeO will be what it will be. I don't even know what it is. I have no expectations whatsoever. And I put my pen down, and as I put it down, I just had this realization, and I felt I've not felt this at peace
Hmm.
or calm or clean possibly my entire life. If I had, it was probably when I was about 11 years old.
Yeah.
Just sat there and I savored this feeling of complete clarity and purity and cleanliness.
Hmm.
And I just breathed in that, feeling no attachments. It was like the ibogaine reached down with this big wet wool blanket and wrapped up every bit of scar tissue I had had over my entire life, from Afghanistan, from
Oh,
SEAL selection, from my parents' divorce, from girlfriends, from
yeah.
fights, from anything, my entire life, and just pulled it all out. And I was just sitting there, pure and clean. And as I'm savoring this feeling, like I've never felt my entire life, I
Right.
hear our first 5-MeO guy scream like his head's being cut.
Oh no.
Oh shit! Here we go.
Yeah,
This is working.
exactly. Brace
And
yourself.
yeah, so my turn comes, and I go walk into the house, and I go upstairs, and they sage me and smudge me again, and I go into the room where we had our ibogaine experience, and it's all been cleaned out except for one mattress and a pure white sheet and pillows. The sun is coming through from the ocean side, and there's prisms and singing bowls and paraphernalia set up everywhere, incense, and all the facilitators and the doctor are dressed in whites or neutrals, and they're sitting around. Everyone's speaking in hushed tones, and so I go sit down on the mattress, and the doctor shows me this vaporizer pipe, and so I'm gonna inhale this 5-MeO. I have no idea anything. I have no notions whatsoever of what's gonna happen. And so he
Right.
shows me this pipe. It's got a little medical caduceus on it, and he shows me these 3 doses of toad venom, and they're in these glass vials, and they're like 2 or 3 grains of salt. I mean, it's a tiny amount. Yeah, tiny.
What?
Yeah. And so the doctor tells me how it's going to happen. And so I take what they call a handshake dose because it's got a very powerful, very distinct taste. And there's a certain
Mhm.
way you have to do it. And so this is just a tiny amount just to familiarize yourself with the way it goes. And so he puts I have an eye shade on, and puts the pipe in my mouth, and then he lights the little glass vial in the bottom of the pipe and tells me to inhale. And I inhale and he holds it. It's like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhale. And I exhale. And no effects to speak of, so I'm like, good to go. So we move on to
Right.
the first real dose. And the doctor tells you when you exhale, that's when it happens. Throw your arms back and just fall backwards.
What?
Yeah, so I puts the pipe in my mouth and I breathe and hold my breath, and he counts down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhale. And as I exhale and throw my arms out, my world explodes.
Come
And
on.
I disappear, and I see this kaleidoscope of primary colors explode in my consciousness,
Right.
colors like I've never seen before. It's red, but you've never seen a red like this. And it's
Right.
blue, you've never seen a blue like this. And yellow, but this is what yellow really is. And I'm like, holy shit, I know that's yellow. That's amazing.
Right.
And I hear the sound of the universe is all it's almost deafening, and I'm laying there just in bliss and love, and I'm like so blown away by this, and I'm just savoring it. And then I remember what one of the facilitators said down below. He said, but as we are getting ready to do this, he said, it's an amazing experience. Um, and it's like being down, we're a bunch of seals, he's like, it's being down 100 feet in the ocean, and the water pressure is immense, and it's dark, but it's blue, and you can see the light, and it's beautiful, and it's calm and peaceful. And he said, but if you have it in you, look over to your right, there's a big black trench that goes down. He said, if you have it in you, go down there, because that's where the jewels are. And so
Oh
I
my God.
remember that. Yeah, right. I remember that as I'm laying there just in this bliss and peace and love. And I'm like, well, I can still have these thoughts. So there must be room left to go. I need to go deeper. And so I signaled for another dose clumsily. And so they kind of lift me up, and I'm kind of slouched, still in this crazy, beautiful, blissful state.
Yeah.
Feel the pipe against my lips. And he says, inhale, and I inhale, and he counts down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, exhale. And I exhale, and I fall back, and I felt my body atomize, and I died.
Right.
And my body was gone, and I was dying, and I remember thinking, oh shit, oh shit, oh fuck, oh shit, I really did it this time. And then as I'm just escalating into this panic of you just died, you just fucking killed yourself with this fucking toad venom. I got to the top and I realized, no, it's all okay. Even if you did, it's 100% okay. And I just settled back into this okayness of whatever it was. And it was like I was shot as a torpedo into this place,
Oh my God.
pure consciousness. It was black and there was no love there. It was pure consciousness, powerful consciousness. It was infinite potential. And how could I have forgotten? How could I have forgotten? How can a wave forget that it's part of the ocean? How can a
Right.
drop not realize that it is water in its entire essence? And I was
Yeah.
just laying there and I remembered what I am. And that was it. I am.
Mhm.
I've never felt anything like that. That realization that this infinite consciousness is me. I remember what I was before I came here and what I will return to. And it was the most beautiful, perfect experience of pure consciousness. And I felt this scream coming from someplace, and I heard my body scream, and there was no time, there's no space in this place. So this scream was from 20 years ago. It's probably from the future. It was from the present. It just echoed through. I could see the ripples echoing through what I perceive as time, backwards
Mhm.
and forwards in this one moment in that existence of consciousness. And it was beautiful. And I just was, how could I have forgotten what I am, what we are, what this is? And
That
it was, I can't, I can't say
that
anything about
uh,
what it was,
I
but it was pure God consciousness. And then I was just in this bliss, experiencing this, I had this thought, I wonder if my body can breathe. And so I took this breath and it just sucked me right back into my body,
oh God.
laying there on this couch, and I was gasping. And I feel these hands, pull me up, and I pulled the eye shade off, and the light was coming in from the windows, and this light was tangible. This light was an entity. This was textured light. It was light.
Mhm.
I saw light for what it was, and I was sobbing with the realization, with the sadness of what we have forgotten, and then I would go into these gales of laughter with the realization of what we are, and it was just a sobbing and laughing, this sorrow of loss and this joy of remembering, and for 15 or 20 minutes I just laughed and I cried, and I remember saying, um, "I am born." And that was a born again experience. And turned and looked at the people that were around me, and I thought all of them had had this experience. And so
Right.
I told them, I get the joke now. I feel like my whole life has been like the day that somebody set up a surprise birthday party for you, and everyone's acting a little weird, and you don't get what's going
Yeah.
on. You
Right.
walk in, boom, there's like, oh, I get it now. It all makes sense. That's what it was. It was like it all makes sense. I get it now. I'm in on the joke. I'm in on the joke now too. I understand the joke. I get the joke,
Right.
and it was so beautiful, and nothing has been the same, and nothing can ever be the same once you experience in a real way that place. And then I started looking into, what was my experience, because not everyone has that experience.
Right.
And based on some research and some reading of some gurus and metaphysical people and some meditators and stuff, i'm I'm sure that that is the classic Buddhic void. And
Right.
doc
My
Doc-
sister.
what's that?
My sister is. She's like, I can't talk right now. I'm going into the void for the next hour. So she's been working with a guru out of New Zealand, and she's learning all about like the quantum and the metaphysical and all that stuff. And I'm in manifesting, so I haven't gotten as far as you guys are. But she's always like, I'm going into the void. She's like, you don't understand. Like I'm actually in these places. Like I go there. Like I'm not here. Like I'm actually there.
I would
So with your experience, it's like it's not magic, but it's magical to have that feeling and that remembering and that knowing that we're robbed of so much, and you touched it like yourself. So again, So
Oh,
again, you say like you'll never be the same after that, because you know, and you've touched these places that have been stolen from us.
yes, you can't be the same after experiencing that, because it wakes up a part of your humanity that we only like. When I was there, all the realizations I had, one of the profound realizations was that all these realizations I'm just remembering. Nothing is new. None of these realizations are new.
Right.
Just it was, oh yeah, oh that's right, yeah, how could I have forgotten that? Holy shit, that's it
Yeah.
was all remembrance, and that was incredible. And since I've gone on to so I went on to a couple other experiences that were amazing, and my girlfriend and I have had a lot of experiences together, and
Mhm.
we went down to Costa Rica, and we did a three ceremony ayahuasca retreat together, which was
Uh,
incredible, especially for her because she hadn't had a powerful experience like I had yet, and we both had very powerful experiences, but
yeah.
hers was much more, I guess, transformative because it was kind of the first big one for her.
Yeah.
For me, it was kind of a revisiting of places and knowledge, and it was no less powerful. It just wasn't quite as seminal.
Yeah.
I'd already kind of experienced some of that before, and so, but all of these, I mean, this medicine that it can do, but the thing, the medicine is very easy to get. It's a shiny object that you can see, okay, I had this incredible experience, or people are listening to this, I want to do
Yeah.
that so I can have that experience. These medicines are just the key that unlocks a door that will take you into a place, and there are lots of keys, and there are lots of ways to go through that door. And the medicine, if like Alan Watts, I love Alan Watts, he said famously, back when he was alive, he said, once you get the message, hang up the phone. And I think that's a very powerful, um, thing to
Right.
keep in mind. That
Yeah.
I don't need to keep revisiting the medicine, because what the medicine showed me and what the medicine gave me is just truth of it's just truth. It's just a reality of the existence that exists right now in this. That's all there is this one boundless moment, and all it did was just pierce the veil between me, my perception, and the actuality of the one glorious now that is existence. And there are lots of ways to get there, and the medicine, especially having a profound experience like that, I think that you are very remiss if that doesn't engender change or make you pursue. I mean, this you can't experience an aspect of the Godhead like that and not change things or do things differently or pursue that path. I mean, you look at the Old Testament, and there's all kinds of experiences of prophets of God and stuff were shown something, and then they're like, okay, now you got to run with this. You've been entrusted with something. Now you got to run with that. It's not something to be, just kind of clocked and put in your back pocket. I don't think.
Yeah. Exactly. That's God, that's so incredible. Like, I just want to thank you for sharing that story, because it was so colorful. Like, I saw it in my head, and all I'm thinking is like, we need to write a movie. We need to write a script about this whole experience, and we need to like bring these things to life, because I feel like we're so cheated from all the experiences that we can be having in this lifetime because of the evil powers that be that take them away from us, and every chemical that they use to calcify our pineal glands, so that we don't have gateways to these other places of existence. And
Exactly, because this is
it's
the
really
aware
good.
and awake humanity is the biggest threat to control.
Right.
That's why cannabis has been illegal. That's why these things are
Well,
illegal, and that's why opioids and all kinds of other bullshit is being pushed. Um,
yep.
because an awake and aware humanity, aware of our individual and even more so our collective power, that's destruction for everything that's running this world.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm just on a mission for that. And people are afraid of it. There's a lot of people in my community that were like super political people and this and that. And now they're able to start to see the shift and are shifting themselves to understanding like the real greater good, the real highest good, because it has nothing to do with politics. Everybody's stuck in the minutia of the separation and the polarity of politics. And it's like, guys, that's not it. Like
Yep.
when we die, we're not going to be like, oh, Krystal Tini, Republican or Democrat. Like it's
No.
so insignificant when you really zoom out. And for someone like you that's had these experiences, when you were a Navy SEAL, you've had so many experiences, and then you went and did psychedelics and had this crazy, somewhat of an explosive awakening. Like you can say, like, this is just not it, guys. Like the fighting and the separation and the race and the religion and all this stuff is all separation.
It's all what it is. Yeah, it's all. I mean, it come down to what my religion is. I can say it in one sentence, and you can spend a lifetime exploring this sentence. It's all one thing. It's all one thing, and that's all there is this one thing, and
Yeah.
returning to that, and all of these, like you're talking about, all the polarizations, all the things that divide and separate you from the embrace of this one glorious now is what it is. It's the
Yeah.
one glorious moment that is all that his existence is.
You mentioned I am.
I
So
am.
I don't know. Have you studied any Neville Goddard, read any Neville Goddard stuff?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. He back in the 1930s, he was talking about the consciousness and breaking down the Bible for what it means that we are all God. God
Yes.
is all within us. And the I am is the most powerful statement or anything that you can possibly be. And anything that comes after that is
Yes.
going to unfold. I am ugly. I am fat. Whatever it is, that's what is going to unfold. And, people, you read all the time, like your words have powers, your words can cast spells, whether
Mhm.
it's on yourself or someone else. That's what is going to be.
Yes.
So when you were saying the I am, it just made me think of that because his teachings are amazing. I can't follow some of them because I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. It's almost like Shakespearean to me, some of his stuff, but it's very interesting. But it's all surrounded with the I am.
No, I'm
And that
glad you connected to that because that's the linchpin. That's a keystone right there. That realization of I am is
Mhm.
everything, and that's what that's what all the enlightened masters. That's the realization that brings them to that enabled them to be where they're at. And I and it was interesting. I grew up in the church. I don't consider myself a Christian anymore just because of
Yeah,
the limitations and connotations and stuff.
same,
Um,
same.
but once I had these experiences, and it still happens occasionally, but for like the first 6 months after that experience, I would be just driving along alone in my car, and I would think about a Bible verse or something would pop into my head, and I would understand it for the first time in my life. I mean, I
Right.
understood it before, but now I understand it at a completely different level. And when
Yeah.
I asked Jesus, and he said, "I am," before Abraham was, I am. I understand that now, and that's a very confusing. What does that mean? That's not even grammatically correct. But once you
Right.
understand, I
Right.
am, then it makes absolute perfect sense. And that's what I believe who Jesus was a fully incarnated understanding of the I am. And that's
Yeah.
what's in all of us. We are all brothers and sisters in the Christ, and that Christ consciousness arising is what's bringing us into
Yeah.
this new awakening in this new world. I think it's coming. I mean, it's interesting. You hear it on all sides, on the political awakening side and everything. We're coming into a new
Yes.
America, a new world, a new political system. It's a new heaven and a new earth, and we are creating it because we're stepping into our power.
Yes, absolutely. We only have a couple minutes left, but Joel, we're gonna have to do like I don't know how many more of these. We didn't even touch on like so many of the things, but I mean, this was the most important for me. I think it was most important and for people to hear because I wanted to talk about the predators that you have faced face to face, the lions and all these things. And that's why I said you're the most interesting man in the world. But we just got to talking about, consciousness and psychedelics and stuff, which is fine with me.
Oh,
But
me too.
I don't know if you do Instagram lives or if you want to, but I know there's so many people that would just love to hear a fraction of what you have to say.
I would love to, and I love talking about this kind of stuff, but my people are advising me I need to throttle back on this on my social medias and stuff just
Gotcha.
because I'm launching a business right now. Um,
I get
Escape
it.
mode. And so, yeah, so I've been shadow banned and I've been throttled back. I don't post anything more about vaccines or this pandemic,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I still am. Sometimes I just got to pop in there and and just drop a little bomb or something about just, wake up to your potentiality. But
Yeah.
I'm, but that doesn't, I'm not going to stop talking about these sorts this is way more important than any business or any,
Yeah.
social media platform. And Truth Social is coming out here soon, and we can talk about all this stuff. So
Exactly.
I'll move all
Good.
my stuff over there where I know
Yeah.
that, Jack and all the rest of those thugs won't be throttling everything. But
Exactly. But if you ever want to go live and talk about whatever your future endeavors are, your business stuff or whatever, it's still interesting because I know that whatever you're doing has a component of consciousness to it. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to talk about that, but
absolutely,
little
I'm all
that
about talking
you're,
about consciousness. I
yeah,
just can't really talk about the deceptions
I
right
get
now. Um, I saw my story views go from like 4,000 views down to like 40.
it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I like my views never go over 4 or 5,000, and
Oh
that's
yeah.
with 172,000 followers. Like when I had half of that, I had way more, but my account just is so shadow banned. But it is what it is. My message is getting out there one way or the other, so I really don't give a shit. They can try and do whatever they want. My message in my mouth is going to be heard.
Yes, yes, and so is
You
mine.
know,
And the nice thing about this is once I launch my business here, Jack and all those people, once Truth Social's out, and once my business is up, boy, I don't care about popping bottles or driving Lambos or anything. What I care about is consciousness and awakening and the human
yeah,
potential and all the things we can do to reconnect to each other and this earth and this soil and these
exactly.
growing things and these living things and just the web of what is and what we are and I am. And that's what we're going to
Yeah,
do. Rosie girl? Yes, that's right.
yes, that's beautifully said to end our session here. But Joel, I have to have you on again because we really, there's so many other things that I wanted to talk about, but
We got on one
this was
question, didn't we?
what?
I think we did one question, didn't we?
I think it was. Yeah, pretty much. It was one question.
Sorry, get me
But
going.
that story was so beautiful. So I am just thrilled that we got to talk about that because it's very important.
Well,
It's
thank
beautiful.
you. Be blessed. Thank you for your platform, and I look forward to coming back again. And
Really quickly,
yeah.
where can we find you?
Oh, you can find me on the endeavor I'm launching right now is Escape and Evade Mobile, escapeandevademobile.com. That's the best place to go, get links
Okay,
and updates on everything that I'm doing. And then I'm Joel5326 on most platforms,
awesome.
or Escape and Evade Mobile. So look forward to all you guys. I love to interact with everyone.
Amazing.
And good.
Yes, thank you so much, Joel, for your time, and we'll chat soon. Have a
Look,
wonderful afternoon.
thank you, Krystal.
No matter
Thank you.
whether you realize it or not, every day you evolve. Every day you create. You create in thought, you evolve in mind, you evolve as far as your age, you evolve physically, mentally. If you are evoluting physically
To
and
say
you are
I'm
not
rocking
evoluting mentally,
my
you
We
are
the
not
Brave hoodie
doing the
because I
right
have
thing.
the most brave person that I've ever come across. I need to get my shit together. Joel, you're probably eventually gonna get sick of me sitting here talking to myself. But at least I can amuse myself. So we're gonna not yet. Still just me by myself. What story can I tell?